Hello, everyone. Let's see if we that being said, oh well, hang on. Now we're getting all kinds of looking here. Let me see if we can. There we go. All right. See if we can stop getting any visual things going on. Okay. So, like I said, welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay. So we have a few things that we need to cover today for this week's episode. As you guys are aware, there is a game that is about to happen for the Avs as they take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. 7:30 Mountain Time puck drop. That'll be on ESPN, so nationally broadcast. We did want to get a episode in beforehand, so you can watch this and then immediately tune into ESPN to watch the Avalanche over there. So, a few things before we begin. I think the most important one maybe is the announcement of the Stadium Series jerseys for the NHL. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins did release their jerseys. I have some opinions on it. This one I think was probably fresh as of maybe 40 minutes ago, maybe an hour ago, somewhere along those lines. Anyway, so they have released their jerseys, both the Lightning and the Bruins. The Lightning one did get leaked initially, supposedly earlier this morning. And it did get confirmed, obviously, from the NHL's release, from the team's release, things to that extent. Tampa going with obviously that royal blue color, but like a light blue, very electric lightning-y infill with TBL across the chest, with like a lightning patch design, like a lightning strike design going through the lettering and the collars and the sleeves, and it's okay, maybe. I haven't really had time to maybe kind of digest the whole image, I guess. But the Boston Bruins, they're going with a yellow one where it's cut. So it's kind of yellow all the way up to, I'd say, about the 3/4 sleeve area. And then it has a black transition stripe. And then it goes white. And they're wearing white gloves. First reaction, right? This is kind of fresh out of the box for me, too. First reactions for both. There's... yeah. It's a no for me. Right now, it's a no for me. Maybe if I actually kind of take some time to digest it, understand it, see it as a whole, then yes. And I understand that a lot of these things with Stadium Series, they try to go for the futuristic looking design, but this one, they tried to kind of go with a little retro in Boston and still some future. And then Tampa's was very abstract. It's just, right now, it's a no. I'm just going to put that for me. But maybe after a week of taking a look at it, finally digesting it, finally understanding it, hopefully that'll mean that some feelings will change, I guess, for lack of a better term. But if you haven't taken a look at them yet, don't let my description fool you. Don't let my opinion fool you or sway you in any direction. Go take a look at them on the NHL's page, on their individual team pages. See for yourself. See what they look like. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Stadium Series idea of going future as opposed to maybe just tweaked present and or a cleaner abstract. Because I'm not going to lie, I don't know if I'm in the majority or even the minority here in this, but I'm getting very sick of the sash design / nicknames that are going across. I think of Nashville when they put Smashville, even Tampa when they had their stadium series a couple years back when they had Bolts written down across it, and now TBL, and then just same thing with like the Islanders when they had the stadium series, it was Isles, and getting pretty sick of it, to be completely honest. I feel like there are definitely different directions that we can go as opposed to just the abbreviations, a nickname for the town, a nickname for the team. I feel like there are so many different avenues that we can explore that just have not been explored yet, to be completely honest with you. So that being said, let's kind of get into the actual nuts and bolts of the Avalanche, the reason that you guys are here, obviously. So some games that we need to discuss first before I kind of get into the real post-regulation problem that I've been noticing for the Avalanche, and maybe some fixes as to what's going on or how we can change things. So let's kind of go through the games that have passed. Now, I do need to say that 2 of these games did require extra time. The first one, obviously the one we're going to talk about here, is the one against the New York Rangers, where the Avalanche did win this game 3-2. And it does have to be in part with the fact that the Rangers scored a goal within the last minute to tie the game. Now, this game itself, and my wife and I always have this discussion because obviously she being a Rangers fan, me being an Avalanche fan, we always have this discussion that whenever there's the game in Madison Square Garden, that game, for some particular reason, always is a very low scoring or in overtime or something to that extent where the game is just always close. And it was a good game. Defensively, everyone was doing rather well. No power play goals were scored. It was every goal was earned. I will be the first to say that every goal was earned. But the hard part that I had with this game is that the rest of the game had playoff feel, but had game 1 mistakes. And when I say game 1, I mean like beginning of the season game 1 mistakes, like things that you were very rusty on, things you needed to clean up. The vibe was intense. The mistakes from both teams were kind of trivial, or should be trivial, I should say, beneath you already. Things you should have already cleaned up, things you should have already been working on. But at the end of the day, they skate away with a 3-2 victory, with Nathan MacKinnon getting 2 goals out of this, one of them being the overtime winner, obviously. Interestingly enough, the first goal, which is one that I did want to discuss, Parker Kelly does get this first goal going, but it's not until the second period. So the first period, obviously, no goals were scored. The game settling into its own, the story already being unraveled in how the atmosphere, how the game style is going to be. But this goal is very interesting because with Parker Kelly, Malinsky gets an assist, Natchez gets an assist, but the goal, I thought, I totally didn't even see it go in, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, after seeing the replay, it's apparent that it did. But I'm impressed because just the last time we talked, I was talking about the momentum, about the trying to avoid getting swept up in momentum. And at that current stage of his goal, the momentum was with the Rangers. And this game had a lot of momentum shifts throughout the game. But his goal really did sway momentum back to the Avalanche. The hard part about that was, though, is that you knew that with the Rangers kind of coming into their own, finally winning at home and trying to pick up their pieces, you knew that it wasn't going to last long. So my question was, from that goal on, how are you going to maintain this lead? And luckily you didn't lose the lead, but you had to give up a tie twice, one of which in the last minute. And we're going to get into this theming of last minute goals because it became such a thing, for me at least, for the last week, which has been the most incredible thing. I don't even know what to tell you. I've seen so many last-minute goals in the last week, it's not even funny. Anyway, overtime winner, we luckily had the right possession at the right time, and McKinnon did get that one top shelf goal that, again, I thought doinked off the rail just because it goes in and out so fast. But he scores, game's over, and everything's okay. So again, you take 2 points, you take the win. You had the one guaranteed to go to overtime. It disappoints me, though, that you couldn't just hold on for those additional, gosh, what was it, 42 seconds, something to that extent, less than a minute. But you ended up having to need to do that later down the road. So I'll get to that in just a second. Next game, same score, 3-2, but this game against the Philadelphia Flyers, this game might as well have been called Hold On for Your Life. First period, Sean Couturier gets the goal scoring started. And then Brett Burns, with a rather impressive little kind of shimmy move, gets a goal. So he ties it up. And then Brock Nelson, right in the last minute of the period, gets a power play goal. You're up 2-1. Second period early, Val Nichushkin gets a goal, his 7th of the season. And then Travis Konechny, about 6 minutes in, scores a goal. So we'll say the first half of this game had the goal scoring. Okay. From that point on, the game to me shifted entirely to a not necessarily playoff, right? But a game of keep away, a game of don't make the mistake, a game of don't do this, a game of just make sure that Philadelphia doesn't get it. Hold on for dear life, right? Especially in those last few minutes. Yeah, I was starting to panic, simply because of what had happened with this Rangers game, what had happened in these giving up late goals, holding on to, with defense, and I don't know, just a series of, I'm trying to pull up some stats here, a series of don't make this mistake, get it out here. I didn't feel confident that an empty net goal was even going to come because it just felt like the Avs were doing everything just to keep lanes blocked, just to keep, passes from getting onto their stick and maybe just little breakups, but clearing the zone was so difficult to do. I don't know. The whole entire thing was just, very, very tense for me. However, they did eventually get it done. They didn't get that empty netter, obviously. But it did show to me a couple of things. One, it showed to me that they, under pressure, under this type of duress, they are able to actually maintain this composure, so to speak, and do what needs to be done, even though it was, to me, felt like the bare minimum to complete a game and hold on to a lead, which is something that the Avs have had a very difficult time in the close games, I should say. When it's games where they're 2-3 goals ahead, yeah, there's no concern, everything's fine. But it's these 1-goal games where they need to kick it into that extra gear. They need to put it into that overdrive setting to just keep possession or keep the opposing team from getting a shot off or what have you. There were some kind of heart attacks that I had for some of these shots and rebounds and stuff like that, but they held their own the whole time. Though it was just a worry, right? This particular game had that, where the way the game went, I didn't have any confidence, unfortunately, toward down the stretch in that second half of the game. I didn't have any confidence that getting a second goal would even, suffice. But the defense was just doing enough to get by, right? And they did. They did enough to get by. But I definitely would like to see a better team pickup of getting that type of thing done, of getting that empty netter, of disrupting, of clearing the zone, definitely, of winning faceoffs. Not committing penalties at bad times. I mean, there were so many different things that were just racing through my head. But like I said, win's a win. You need to be happy with it. I need to be happy with it. I'm very critical, right? I understand that. You got to be happy with it. You're doubling up your wins now, and you go to Nashville, okay, where my key to the game was to play the game you should have played the first time. Well, that's not exactly what happened. Unfortunately, in this game, the Avalanche fall to the Predators in a shootout. In a very odd shootout, I guess is the word I will say for that. 3-4. The game was good. It was a very good game. Both teams played really great. Plenty of goals in the first period. I believe Nelson got one, Lehkonen got one, and then for Nashville, Marchessault and Schaefer got some. So 2-2 going into the first period. And I was thinking, okay, everything's fine. It's going to be one of these battle games. It's not that, go out and crush them like I thought it was going to be. Unfortunately, that's just how this goes. No goals in the second period. And then late, this was one where it was like, as time was winding down, my brain went to, it feels in this case that next goal wins. Okay. There are those games where as you're passing the 10-minute mark in the third period and time just continues to go down, like where you glance up and I swear 6 minutes have passed. It's those types of games where you're like, if someone scores, it's going to be a fight of the ages just to get a tying goal. Well, unfortunately, about 7 minutes left in the third period, Brady Shea gets a goal with a really good redirect. And the Predators go up one, right? And I was thinking, okay, right there, it's going to be tough. It is going to be extremely difficult. You're going to need to really put this thing together because obviously Nashville wasn't going to let up. Nashville wasn't going to just say, oh yeah, you can tie the game whenever you need. They really turned into a, hey, let's get this going. We're going to defend this. We're going to guard this as best as we can. So with a minute left, less than a minute left, I should say, with 8 seconds left, to be more specific, Cale Makar gets a goal, okay, and ties the game, which was excellent, which was, a big sigh of relief. However, one thing that did, I should be happy, and I am, but one thing that did really get to me on this one was, we do this thing when we're up a man, and this kind of relates to the power play as well, okay? We do this thing where we look for the perfect shot, okay? For those of you who are new, you're about to learn about one of my biggest pet peeves for the Colorado Avalanche, the very team I love, okay? For those of you who are not new, sorry you have to hear this again. The one thing that they do is look for the perfect shot. Not any shot, not a shot, the perfect shot, okay? Which in this case wasn't what Cale Makar shot off of. He shot because time was winding down. He shot because he needed to, and there was a slight redirect from a wayward Nashville stick that sent the puck past the goaltender. But what annoys me is that there were plenty of opportunities to just shoot and get a potential rebound goal that the Avs just didn't take. They just didn't have, they didn't have that desire to take the right shot or, the right shot for any, or lack of a better term, or any shot for that matter. And it almost bit them in the butt. Okay, to a point where, yes, they scored, but it was like that took a lot longer than it should have, because it felt like sometimes we had Nashville on the ropes for the last, I think it was 2.5 minutes that we pulled the goaltender. And we had such a good opportunity several times that ultimately they just didn't take, which was really, really annoying. Until finally a desperate heave, a desperate move, some luck from the hockey gods, and the puck goes in with 8 seconds left. Now, you go to overtime. Nothing happens. Great, right? I was thinking, well, at least they didn't get, we didn't get scored on in overtime, because that tended to be a trend. But the shootouts is what's interesting to me. So Ryan O'Reilly gets a goal in the shootout first, and then it becomes a miss from Marty Necas, and then Philip Forsberg comes in. He misses, but he crashes right into Scott Wedgwood, who whacks his head kind of part part post, part ground. It looked pretty egregious. Like it looked pretty bad where you're like, oh my gosh, is he okay? And like just toe picks, runs right into him, not intentional or anything like that. But it looked like it hurt, like really, really bad. In fact, Forsberg was calling over for the Avalanche medical team to come, but in a surprising move, Wedgwood just stands up and he's like, "No, I'm okay. Like we're good. I'm all right." And so after some time, and everything seemed to be okay, we continued on with the shootouts. Val Nichushkin unfortunately misses his. Steven Stamkos then takes his shot against Wedgwood and misses. But right before Gabe Landeskog, the one who could have potentially tied the shootouts and maybe sent it into some extra shots, before Landeskog went on, the referees go to the replay booth because allegedly the concussion protocol people called down, despite Wedgwood taking a subsequent and ensuing shot, they called it down and they said, you need to get Wedgwood off the ice. What? I don't understand how you don't call that sooner. Like you need to have that right there so he doesn't even take another shot. But he took another shot. And so when the ref went over to Jared Bednar and the Avalanche bench to explain what had happened and what needs to happen now, I saw Nathan MacKinnon laughing, like a genuine laugh, and just a smile across his face, going like, you have got to be kidding. Like, what is wrong with you guys? He takes the hit. He says he's fine. He takes another shot. This is Wedgwood I'm talking about. He takes another shot where if the concussion protocol team was really worried, they shouldn't have even allowed that. So then the question becomes, well, do you retroactively redo the shot because you had a goalie that shouldn't have played? Or what do? Right? Well, they just said you have to get Mackenzie Blackwood on if Gabe Landeskog scores the goal, and you have to go to more and more shots. And so everyone on the bench is just going like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, but he took a shot. He played more hockey after he got hit, right? Anyways, they take Wedgwood off. Wedgwood's going like, why? Same reason that we all were thinking. And they take him off. They put Blackwood in, who hasn't played for 60 minutes, hasn't gotten warm, 65 minutes, hasn't gotten warmed up, hasn't taken a shot, hasn't done anything, just completely cold turkey out onto the ice. And then Gabe Landeskog misses his shot, and the game's over. So he goes out for the ice, Mackenzie Blackwood goes out on the ice for a grand total of 15 seconds, and the game's over, right? Didn't even need to take the other shot, and it was useless. It was unneeded. I don't get it. Okay. However, you lose in the shootout, you get to go home, and now you're going to play here in just about 20 or so minutes. But that does beg the question for me. Okay. As it sits right now, before this game, the Avalanche are 21-2-7. Okay. Those 7 overtime plus losses are what I want to discuss. Okay. Before we go into the upcoming games. First, obviously, throughout a season, teams are going to lose in overtime. Teams are going to lose in shutout. The Avalanche are no exception. Okay. However, we're just over, I'd say we're past a third of the way done with the season. We're creeping up on it, I should say. And throughout this first third of the season, you have 7 overtime losses where when you have gone to overtime, I don't think you've won half as many as you have lost. Okay. Which is very concerning and very confusing to me, in that the Avalanche, sitting first in the league, the most potent goal scorers, Hart Trophy, Norris Trophy winners, great solid goaltending. The team up and down plays great. Okay, I'll brag about them. I'll die on that hill that they are a great team. Okay. However, as soon as an overtime hits, I am now trained, at least, to fear for my life because it feels like it's a completely different team that gets put out there, right? Yeah, Brock Nelson may go and win a faceoff for you, which is great. But the whole thing is just very, very strange to me in that they are losing these games despite having on paper the three players that should, in theory, go out, score, and you're done, right? I don't understand what the problem is, but I have a guess. Okay. My guess is this. You're going out on offense, you're getting possession of the puck first, yes, which is great. However, with that possession, you don't score right away. Okay. Now I know I'm picking at, I'm chasing fairy tales here. I'm picking at apples that are way too far for me to reach. I understand that. Okay. But with Cale Makar, with Marty Necas, with Nathan MacKinnon, I feel like that alone should be all you need, I should say, as far as manpower to go and create some shots and get a puck in the net relatively quickly. Okay. However, two of those, right, players aren't necessarily the most sublime on defense. And I think that's ultimately what the problem becomes, right? Is that you have two very good offensive guys and a very good offensive defenseman, right? But as soon as you lose puck possession, you are now kind of, on the outside looking in, so to speak, because not to say their defense is terrible, but there are players that I would trust more on defense and have that defense savviness than, say, a Cale Makar, or excuse me, not Cale Makar. He's fine. Then a Nathan MacKinnon, then a Marty Necas, right? Like if you were to put in Val Nichushkin, right? Yeah, he might not be the fastest on offense, but defensively, there's a reason he's on the power or the penalty kill, right? Things to that extent where I was like, I just feel like there are better personnel to put out when you lose possession. Now, obviously, in overtime, getting changes is not easy to do. I get that. But I feel like there are that might be one of the big reasons as to why we are getting scored on in that overtime period versus when we're scoring on others, right? And that's just overtime. Okay. In shootouts, I am very intrigued as to the personnel selection that Jared Bednar puts out there when it comes to shootouts. Okay. When it comes to Wedgwood and Blackwood blocking shots and whatnot, yeah, it's a skills competition. Will he be better than the guy shooting? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay. But I feel like when Bednar is putting out players that I'm like, yeah, on a breakaway, I trust you, but one-on-one, I don't. That's where I'm like, okay, so like, why are we putting out Landeskog for this, right? He's fine. He can score. Everyone can score. That's not the issue that I'm having, problems with. It's just that to me, there are better players out there that I think have a better shot creation, right? Than like a Gabe Landeskog, then a Val Nichushkin, then you know what I mean? And that's not to say that they aren't capable. That's not to say that they won't ever do it. But it's just the personnel that I just kind of look and I just have to cock my head sideways and be like, why would we choose these three against their best, right? Like I just look at this Nashville one. Ryan O'Reilly, who's got a great shot shape, right? Philip Forsberg, who does a really good job to switch forehand to backhand. Steven Stamkos, he's creative despite his age, and I guess all of them, they're getting up there in age, but they have the shot creation and the playmaking skill to do it. Whereas we put out Marty Necas, which, yeah, the puck kind of flew on him He looked even down at the ice to see where in the world that was. So he could get stuff done, sure. But for Val Nichushkin and Gabe Landeskog, to me, they're just not as fast on the stick as someone like a Victor Olofsson or a Ross Colton or a Nathan McKinnon, right? Or a Cale Makar, someone to that extent where it's like we have personnel that can do this. We've seen them do this on breakaways. But for some reason, just they don't. They don't pick that personnel. I'm not the coach. Obviously, I don't see what they do in practice. So maybe in practice, they are the best ones, right? Natchez, Nichushkin, Landeskog, etc. Okay. But it just doesn't seem like the right personnel in the game, in the moment, right? And if it were up to me, it would be like, well, who's been stick handling the best? Who's got the fastest wrist shot? Things to that extent where it's like you need to be able to score these goals because this extra point is important. Okay. And it oddly enough, whenever these games have gone to shootout, this one against Nashville, the one against Minnesota, it just feels like we didn't put the best out there because we didn't care. That's what it feels like. But that's just me. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments as far as what you think the Avs are doing wrong in overtime and shootouts and what you think might be the solution to fix that. Okay. We have just a few minutes here, so I'll get through this quickly for you guys. Upcoming games. We have 3. This one tonight, obviously, against the Florida Panthers. 7:30, like I say, are in just about 15 or so minutes, so I'll make sure to wrap up before then. Key to the game with this one. Now, I just yesterday saw the Panthers play live up here at the Delta Center against the Utah Mammoth, and I will say this: they look beatable. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there now. They look beatable. Okay. Obviously, missing Barkov, missing Tkachuk, that takes a very big toll, and you don't have your full and complete team. You don't have some of your best players out there. I understand that. But this game should come down to a simple, if you are consistently firing the puck, then I think you will win. Okay. I saw the Mammoth doing that early in the game yesterday where they were just firing, and had Florida on the ropes. They did get some goals in that same manner where it's like if you just had the possession, if you were just applying that heat, getting aggressive, staying on it the whole time, eventually you began to see cracks and you began to see foundational issues in the defense. They began to make more mistakes. So that's my key to the game, is to just apply relentless pressure, because Florida right now, even though they are back to a winning record, they're starting to pick up their own again, starting to come into that feel. They're still a very beatable team, right? Especially without Tkachuk, especially without Barkov, who's out for the season. But you have to have that pressure. You have to be continually applying that. The Avalanche have the ability to do that. They have the personnel to do that. They have the talent to do that. You just need to do it. That's the problem. You need to do it. Okay? Not just say like, oh yeah, we can. No, you will. You have to. Because if that's the case, you can put the game away relatively early. I think so. Okay? So that's my key to the game for them against the Panthers, is to apply that relentless pressure. As far as maybe on the defensive end, it's really about buttoning up, blocking lanes, clearing the puck is another big one. Obviously, with the Avalanche struggling to do that for the last couple of games, that one's going to be very, very huge, especially if you're down a man or the game comes late and you are close in score. Clearing the puck is going to be very, very important against this type of Florida Panthers team, because eventually once they get an established offensive zone time, they get an offensive rhythm going, then yeah, eventually the puck ends up finding a way to the net, or they get really good shots, really good opportunities, leaving your goaltender to have to stand on his head, make some really important saves. And we're trying to avoid that altogether. So at the end of the day, clear the puck, get it out of your defensive zone often, be smart with it. Don't commit dumb penalties, right? But applying relentless pressure would definitely be the go-to, in my opinion. So that's my key to the game for this game against the Florida Panthers. Now, next game, Saturday, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, puck drop, another home game against another familiar face, which we just saw in the Nashville Predators. Key to the game. I'm going to do the same one as I did last week. Play the game you should have been playing against Nashville for the last couple of times. Okay. This one does not needlessly need to be a momentum shifting game, as in Avs have momentum, then it goes to Nashville, then it goes back to Colorado, then it goes back to Nashville. By all intents and purposes, you should be able to have the momentum to go out and, I don't want to say dominate, but get the job done, especially against Nashville, right? So easier done or easier said than done, I understand, because apparently Nashville just kind of has that number right now with the Avs. But at the same time, on paper, that's all is on the paper, right? You need to put what's on paper out onto the ice, okay, and show that you have this record, this 21-2-7 record, for a reason. 2 regulation losses, yeah, for the first third of the season, absolutely. 2 thumbs up. I'm all for it. But you need to prove that against a team that you are struggling, your kryptonite, whatever you want to call them, you are struggling against them for some reason. So that's just my simple key to the game, is just to go out and play the game against them, particularly, that you should have been playing against them the last couple of times and here in the last 2 weeks, right? So that's my key to the game for the Nashville Predators. Again, you have the offensive firepower, you have the know-how, you have the skills. Don't make the mistakes. Don't make the errors. Don't make the don't commit the penalties. All that type of stuff. So that Saturday, like I said, Saturday 7 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. Next game, the last one we'll talk about before I let you guys go. The Avalanche do have just a quick little jaunt up to Seattle, where they will play the Kraken. This one is going to be nationally televised on TNT, 8 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. Like I said, Tuesday, December 16th. Key to the game for this one, hard to say. To be completely honest, I haven't been paying much of attention to Seattle, unfortunately. But I'm thinking it's going to be with the goaltending. Okay. Joey Decord, if I'm not mistaken, is very up there in shutouts and things like that. But I think it's just going to be about the breaking factor of the goaltender, whether it is Joey Decord, which I'm expecting, or maybe Philip Grubauer. Just games in Seattle for some reason do tend to get very, very strange, right? Whatever's in the water in the Puget Sound seems to be affecting Climate Pledge Arena, because it just feels like games up there get very, very strange. Okay, but my guess is it's going to be on the goaltending. Okay, that and not committing penalties. Okay, taking advantage of power play opportunities, because it's interesting. This is a very odd Seattle Kraken team. They're not. Let me look at the standings real fast to make sure I'm not just kind of lying to you guys. Yeah, 28 games played, 12-10-6. So they're not terrible, but they're not necessarily good for that, for all intents and purposes. However, in their last few games, they have only one, and it took them to overtime, right? But they've had a lot of goals scored against them in that time. 9 goals that the Oilers got to get on them. Another 4 from the Red Wings, another 4 from the Wild, 2 from the Kings. Goaltending hasn't necessarily been strong, but at the same time, Joey Decord has been fine. Their offense just hasn't. Okay. I think that's my key to the game. Standard Avalanche practice. For those of you who know me, I also enjoy it when I use the word urgency. Okay, not panic, not full-blown meltdown, just urgency. Play a full 60 minutes. Don't let your foot off of the gas. And honestly, I think based off of the goals that you get to, I think if you score 3 goals or so, you're going to be okay. I don't see Seattle's offense of having that kind of a potent firepower to catch up. Okay, but don't let them catch up. That's kind of the issue, right? Urgency. All 60 minutes, whether you're up 7-0, whether you're up 1 or 2-1, okay? It's urgency. That's going to be the big key to the game, I think, for this game against the Seattle Kraken. So, that being said, that's going to be it for upcoming games. I do owe you guys, obviously, a hockey hit of the week. For those of you who are new, hockey hits of the week is a thing that Brit and I do where we pick a song that best reflects how the week went, I guess. And mine, let me make sure I have it pulled up. I had it and then I closed my phone because I'm dumb. But where was it? Sorry, bear with me. My phone is going slow right now. Okay, here we go. Song hockey hit of the week for me comes from the lovely Olivia Rodrigo. We're doing a little pop girl today. The song called Brutal. In that, it's not getting easier for the Avalanche. It's getting pretty brutal out here. Teams are beginning to pick up on weaknesses for the Avalanche. And so the best thing you can do is play with that urgency, play as a team, play with chemistry before it gets too brutal out here to not be able to win games or at least take them into regulation plus to get points off of them. Like I said, 2 regulation losses so far. Yeah, I'll take that every day of the week. So hockey hit of the week, Olivia Rodrigo's Brutal. Not because we've been losing, not because of anything bad, but just because the storm is starting to catch up. And eventually, hopefully doesn't, but eventually everyone's going to get consumed in the fact that everyone has now figured out, started taking notes, started taking scouting reports, study film, whatever it is, on the Avalanche, and things have gotten a little brutal out here. So that being said, I will let you guys go now. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, you can go ahead and switch this off. Go right on over to the TV. Let's get an Avalanche game going. Hopefully, another 2 points. Hopefully, another 6 for the next week. So as I always say, have a good weekend. Let's get some points on the boards. And as always, go Avs, go. Fast lane when I pass in the street. Bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute.